I just had to come back on and speak a little bit more about not feeling seen and heard. Ever since I spoke, which was less than 2 days ago, I'm just seeing this more and more in my life, and how the root chakra always plays a strong part in this, and a sense of safety in the world. I did an online healing session yesterday for a wonderful woman who's starting to, for the last months, has become extremely ill. And so this was our second session. And what we came to realize, that was early in her childhood, she conformed, like many of us conform, and even our culture, our society has certain rules that we're sort of expected to follow. And in her family, the father made it very clear as to what was acceptable and what wasn't acceptable at a very early age. And if she didn't conform, she didn't really feel safe, and she didn't feel loved. And then her mother loved it when she was very quiet, very, very quiet. That was perfect. When she was quiet. So she chose to be quiet. And yet later in her life, up to now, her work has been to speak out and to make strong statements. So you think, wow, that must be a strong throat chakra. She's able to speak. Her words are impeccable. She can get her messages across clear as day. And so what's going on? She doesn't feel seen and heard. She doesn't feel seen and heard. So the root chakra can either have very little energy, extremely weak, and it gets really small and closes in on itself. It's almost like I feel it, and it sinks into the body. It just sinks in. There's nothing coming out of it. And then there can be an excessive root chakra when there's just so much energy. It's just excessive, and it's just pouring out of it. It's just bursting out, but it's sort of negative energy. It's energy from the wounds. And so often what happens is people who don't feel seen and heard may either be very, very quiet, or they may be very, very loud. And it's through feeling into that in the root chakra. So yesterday we were able to bring all this energy in, especially around, I try and go back in the years and really embracing that younger self. In her case, it was a 3-year-old, really embracing that younger self and reparenting and reloving that younger self, and feeling the energy in the feet. So she didn't feel her energy in her feet. It was hard for her to get in touch with that. But by the end of this session, she could feel her energy in her feet, her connection with the earth. And so that's her homework assignment, to keep loving herself as a little kid, not conforming to society or the parents, and really connecting with the earth. And I have another client I've recently worked with the root chakra, and she became ill in her childhood and could see now that she ended up hiding because she didn't want to go to school after being away for so long. What will all the kids think? And she was an outgoing, gregarious girl before that. And that energy seemed to stay, that she needed to be small and not seen or heard. And actually what we realized was she doesn't take up much space in the world. She takes up hardly any space, because that energy of hiding, of wanting to hide, and shame, whatever else goes along with it, is in the root chakra. And so we were able to remove that dark energy, all the wounds of that time, and bring in the light, and helped her claim space. And so in her case, she had a room in her home that was hardly used. And so she claimed that as her space. It's her space unapologetically. And so now she can take up space in the world. And immediately afterwards, she she was skipped over in a meeting at work online, and she didn't say anything, but it upset her. And normally she said she would just let that go if she got skipped over when people were sharing ideas. And that was on Friday. But what she did on Monday, she sent everybody in the meeting an email with her great ideas. And her feeling was, I have great ideas too, and they deserve to be heard. And so she expressed all of those in an email and got great feedback from most of the participants. And so she really felt seen and heard, but she was claiming her space. She was claiming her space. And what I also see, I just saw it today in someone who's been really working with her business, really doing very well and becoming very successful. But what's happened is she's been feeling really stuck with low energy. She's actually exhausted, and this has been going on and on. And so what often happens is when and I don't know that any of us are used to being seen and heard 100% in our earlier years. It's a cultural thing. And so what happens is when we start to push the envelope and allow ourselves to be seen and heard, whatever has stopped us is going to come up. And a lot of what stops us is actually the fear of our greatness, of how amazing we really are. And so I was having a conversation with someone and on the phone, and I invited her to try my surrender practice because I could just feel the universe is trying to move through her. And that's what we're all here to do. We're here to allow, open up to, surrender to the universe moving through us in our own unique and beautiful way. And that's how our light shines. So there's this subconscious part of us that thinks we need to conform. We can only be seen in a certain way. And we may work through that. And then it's a matter of allowing, of just opening up to that. And it's kind of like becoming a sponge. And so over the phone, I described this practice to her that isn't really a meditation practice. She doesn't meditate, but she was able to sink into it, and she just started crying. And when this practice came to me, it was at the very beginning of a 5-day personal meditation retreat I did for myself. And it was the first practice that came to me, and I was just guided. And the same thing. When we feel the universe moving through us, when we surrender to all that we are, when we surrender to all that's happening to us energetically, the shift that we're going through, tears come. Tears come because of the letting go. Tears come because of the fear of the unknown. We don't know what we're changing into. And fear of how great we are that we may be seen for that because we're not so used to it. The fear of stepping into our greatness and really letting ourselves be seen. And so she did this practice, and it was just transformative. And so I can't wait to see what happens, because this fear of our greatness can be absolute, scary as hell, so hard to face. To me, facing our greatness and the fear of our greatness is the greatest fear of them all. But when we're willing to face that and surrender to it, magic really happens. And so if you're inclined at all to investigate these things in yourself, I really encourage you to do that. And if you're interested at all in my surrender practice that I just love, and I've been giving to most of my clients, and they love it too, it can be so transformative, you can just email me at throatchakrashaman@yahoo.com. That simple, throatchakrashaman@yahoo.com, and open yourself up to really being seen and heard for all that you are in your own unique and beautiful way.